Makes sense. Hello, and yeah, thank you for staying for so long.
How you doing?
Uh, yeah, well, you know, Thursday, 1 a.m., so it's fine.
Oof, brutal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I took a look through the list of your hot takes, and yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that you are not like some, I don't know, flat earther or whatever. So I found only 2 points where I felt interesting to discuss. One, you said that you can prove basically no that God doesn't exist beyond reasonable doubt.
Correct.
And second is that women and men. I don't remember how exactly you formulated, but basically there is no gender gap in performance between
In
women and
chess?
men. Yes, in chess.
Yes.
Um, so I think the second is much quicker to discuss. So, well, there are obviously like the performance is measured. You have elo, you have glyco, and all of those numbers, how performance is measured, and you see that women perform worse. So, how
Are
exactly
you
you
aware that there have
reconcile
been
that?
women that beat Magnus Carlsen?
Yeah, but okay. So a lot of men beat Magnus Carlsen, but at
Yeah.
average, if you look at
That
like
would
at the
be an
performance
indicator that
at Elo,
there's no inherent uh, thing in the brain that causes them to be worse at chess.
it
Because
could be
somebody can be
anything. It could
just
be
as good as Magnus Carlsen.
well, Magnus Carlsen drink a lot and a lot of other stuff. But no, I
No,
don't
he
want to
was
go this
sober.
road. Okay, yeah, okay, sure.
He's been
But
beaten.
yes, a lot of people beat Magnus Carlsen, so you not
Not
always
that many,
play
but yeah,
perfectly.
not
Okay,
that many. There's
so
a reason why he's the champion.
yeah, but you use anecdote when I bring like uh, statistical data. So
Well,
you have number which measured the performance.
it is so. It is true that when it comes to competition, men tend to have like a greater interest in that sort of thing, in that type of competition, and so as a result, you end up with less women. But my argument is I think it's probably more attributed to that than it would be like, I don't know, like an intelligence thing, like what people kind of assume when there is that argument. The reality is that women are just as intelligent, if not smarter in many ways, to men.
Well, like let me clarify. I don't have a stance that there is some like genetic inherent like difference. I don't know. There could be difference. There could be not. I'm looking at the facts. And the facts just shows that they perform worse.
That's not
Likely,
the case.
there is a lot of contribution of culture, things like that. I don't know. Like it's just if we look at numbers, we see that it's like 200 points below. So
I mean, in
if
overall
you
averages, but yes, that's correct. But I'm saying that I attribute that to there being an interest in the subject.
yeah, it could be, but in this case, first, I think you need to reformulate your hot take because I think right now it
No, because
takes
they could be
different
just as
stance.
good as men in chess. They can be, and they have been.
You don't know. You don't know. You don't
No, I do
have
know. I
proofs
can
for that.
observe that.
Um. So okay. So do you win a game or lose depends on like your like base level how you play on some bit of luck and just some like your state of mind in this specific moment. So basically, if you play against Magnus Carlsen, you may have, sorry for my English, by the way, like luck on your side, and you have like bad mental state during this specific game in the mind of Magnus Carlsen, and so on. So, um, like if you beat once Magnus Carlsen, it doesn't mean that you is as good as Magnus Carlsen. It only means that you beat him once, and that's it. Like you need to look at like statistical data more than at anecdotes.
Okay. Do you think that there's anything inherent about women being not as good at chess?
I I have no idea. Like, and I don't care personally. Like, I just
Okay, well, my
communicate with
argument is
each
that
person.
I think they're the same
How do you know that?
because I can see instances where people can beat the best players in the world who are male.
Yeah, but it doesn't prove that. What
Yes, it
you
does.
again? You prioritize anecdote over statistics. You
I am
prioritize
aware of the
weaker argument
statistics,
over
and I've
stronger
explained
argument.
how the statistics are the way they are.
Well, so okay, maybe I misunderstand how you
And by the way,
understand.
if you read my
Okay,
statement, it does say that women can be just as good as men.
what it means, like to perform at average or perform once in their lifetime. What exactly this phrase means?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
When you say that women can play as good at chess as men, does it mean that they can sustain the same performance rating? Or does it mean that they can just beat the champion?
Sorry, can you repeat
Like,
that? I got distracted. Somebody was texting me.
okay, no worries. Um, when you say that women can play chess no worse than men, or however you formulated that,
No.
do you mean that they can sustain the same performance rating as men?
Well,
Or
I
do
said
you
women
mean
are just as good as men at chess.
what exactly that means? I'm trying
Hmm?
to
They
differentiate
can
two different
perform at
meanings.
just the same level as men.
Yeah, but how you measure this level?
Hmm?
How you decide? How exactly you measure
Well, I
that?
could look at ELOs
Yes, but elo of women is lower.
in general, sure.
You to take the best
But that's not all
women
women.
chess player
I can look
or
at the best
best.
women and the best men, and they overlap.
Yes,
They
yes, but
overlap.
women is always lower, and 200 points is a lot. It's not like 30
What?
points or
200 points is
even
like nothing in terms of ELO.
that's a
But if
lot.
you're talking about the difference between like 2,500 and 2,700, yeah, that's a pretty big difference. But like a 600 and 800 is negligible. It's
Okay, so
basically non-existent.
your point is 200 points of ELA gap is negligent,
Yeah.
right?
So normally what I like to observe is like there to be like some sort of inherent difference. An inherent difference would be like strength difference. It is true that men tend to be stronger than women. There is overlap there, yes, and there are definitely women that are stronger than men. That's true, right? But we can observe that there's like a full standard deviation difference in terms of like the total bell curve distribution. Now, when it comes to the ends of those distribution, the end of the distribution does not connect with men, right? In terms of physical strength. However, that is not the case for chess.
Okay, you just basically
Imagine if
state
there's a
that
woman, right?
to
Like even a single one that goes up against the strongest man on earth and lifts the same amount. That would be like, what is this outlier? Can women
the
really be
difference
as
is
strong as men? That would be like, yeah, that would actually prove that, yeah, women can be just as strong as men. And so when I point out that there is, in fact, women that can beat the best player in the world, women are just as good as men at chess.
the difference is lower in chess. That's true. You basically just saying
But
that
much
this difference
lower,
is low
much lower.
enough
In
to
fact, I would
say
even
that it's
argue it
equal.
overlaps.
Okay, could you just say yes or no? So, do you basically state that the difference in ELO is negligent?
I'm sorry, the difference. Yeah, I mean, I think
Is
like if you're towards the tail
negligible?
end, it's pretty substantial. But if you're like around the middle, it's 200 is like nothing.
Yeah, okay, we talk about like top players. 200 is a lot there. And you state that this is basically negligible, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is your claim. If yes,
Yeah.
I won't argue with that. It's just it's an opinion.
Mhm.
I can understand that opinion. I disagree, but I don't think it's worth uh,
What do you think
diving
that the
into.
what do you think that the reason why, right? Like, because I know, like, for example, if we look at the top 100, it's mostly men. I won't disagree with that.
Well, I have few hypotheses. First, we have much less women players, so we have like lower chance to get a champion among this data set. This could be one contribution. Another is men are generally more competitive. I don't know, maybe because of culture, maybe because of our hormones or whatever. I don't know. Like, mm, it's just kind of a
Yes,
behavior
that is
thing.
in fact what researchers found. So that means, under that basis, women can be just as good as men at chess
Uh,
because it's just
well, if
like a
you
level of interest, not a level of like intellectual inability.
if you basically create the same hormones in women and put them in the same for God's sake, socialization process as men, then maybe I'm not completely sure, but I guess the gap will be reduced drastically. Uh, mm, okay, if that's your claim, then I guess I agree with that.
Okay, cool.
About God, um I don't know, like when I was at university we had like philosophy there, and it was kind of a common knowledge that you cannot reasonably prove existence or non-existence of God. It's like transcendental or whatever. So I was curious to hear how exactly you can how what exactly is your proof beyond reasonable doubt
Yep,
that God doesn't exist.
yep. I've got a syllogism. Give me a moment while I pull it up.
Okay.
All right. Premise one: the law of conservation of mass and energy holds true.
Could you share this, if you don't mind?
Sure,
I mean, could drop a link or something.
sure.
Okay, thank you.
I want to run you through it though.
Uh-huh.
So, premise one is the law of conservation of mass and energy holds true. Do you agree with that?
Like if we talk about God, then I
No,
need to add a
no,
caveat here.
no, nowhere close there. We're just talking about a premise. Simple premise, not God.
Again, this
The law of
it is
conservation of
contextual.
mass and energy holds true.
It's contextual. If you
Nope. This is a
talk
very
about this
specific
low level,
definition with a very, very specific explanation. The law of conservation of mass and energy holds true.
okay, in human observable universe, yes.
Correct. Premise two: work is the displacement of energy through the application of force along a displacement. That's the physics definition of work. Do you understand what that means? What I said?
Know what is work? I just struggling with English. A few seconds.
You're
Okay.
transferring your energy to like a vessel,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Okay,
then
okay,
the
okay. Thank
energy
you.
is now transferred over. That's what work is. So like you pulling something, pushing something, pouring energy into something it causes
I
work.
understand. I needed to parse the sentence. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
application of force. I agree.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So premise three: for energy to be transferred, it must come from somewhere.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Premise four: if God enacts miracles, he would be able to perform work independently of the universe. Do you agree with that?
It's arguable. Like you
Well,
can
I'm
influence
operating under the
universe.
assumption that perhaps a God does exist. And should this God exist, I would imagine it would be all powerful, because I've never heard anybody say that God is not all powerful. And so therefore, I can say God enacts miracles. He would be able to perform work, as in the displacement of energy, independent of the universe. Right? He wouldn't need to draw it from anywhere. He is an infinite well of energy.
Okay, if we say that he's omnipotent or whatever, yeah, I guess from this assumption, they or he can do that. I'm
Yep.
just saying that it's not the only way to enact miracles.
Great. So premise 5, if God can break the law of conservation of mass and energy, it contradicts the thousands of experiments supporting this law.
Yes.
Okay. Conclusion, and this is the first conclusion rather than the second. Therefore, it is not reasonable to assume God would break the law of conservation of mass and energy. Right? So we have no indication.
I disagree with the conclusion. But, okay. I disagree with the conclusion.
Why?
I disagree with implication you try to, how to say in English, I don't know. But okay, let me clarify. Ask a question. I mean, do you mean here in this conclusion that God cannot influence our universe without breaking the law of conservation of mass and energy?
No, I'm saying it's possible.
Okay. Yeah, but not reasonable. That's what you're saying, right?
That's correct. So the conclusion being, it is not reasonable to assume that God would break the law of conservation of mass and energy. So that's within this universe. We've basically just tied down that it is not reasonable to assume that God interacts within this universe. However, that doesn't remove the beyond space-time hypothesis.
No. God still can influence this universe through,
How?
For example, manipulating the randomness of quantum
Really?
physics. Why not?
That would be work. That would be
no,
violating the law
you're-
of conservation of
no.
mass and energy, because you are moving
no.
energy in a
That-
way that didn't
that's not
normally would have done that without an intervention.
That's not true. You have inherent
That is true.
randomness. You have inherent randomness in how
It's
universe
probabilistic, but it's not perfectly random. It operates on some very, very specific properties, but yes, there are probabilistic notions within these very, very specific
what
properties.
What properties?
Also, you do
Hidden
not
parameter.
have the level of emergence that would be required to actually enact macro level miracles at a quantum level.
So your claim is that
The randomness of quantum theory does not explain things at a macro level. The emergence is different. And so if God enacted miracles at a quantum level, that would not affect the macro level.
So you basically think that macro level is completely stable. It's completely whatever randomness happens on like quantum level, it cannot affect how exactly macro level will behave.
It has to affect it in some way, but it doesn't really affect it at a macro level. Like when you're talking about like quantum foam or the bubbling of foam, where it just goes up and down, and like in matter and antimatter cancels out. It doesn't do garbage to anything that currently exists.
Well, I disagree here.
Okay.
Should we stop here or should we continue your premises?
I mean, like, this is explaining how we can't really have a miracle, like an enactment of work within our universe without breaking the law of conservation of mass and energy. Randomness in quantum physics isn't going to make this problem go away.
Randomness can.
But hey, maybe there is a God that exists beyond
world.
space-time, such as a first cause mover.
Say again? Sorry.
Maybe there exists a God that exists beyond space-time and put things in such a way that allows miracles to happen, therefore not violating the law of conservation of mass and energy.
Yeah, it could be. It could be that our
Great.
universe were predetermined to have all these miracles.
Great. Premise 6. If God enacted a first cause before the universe, it implies that he exists beyond space-time. Do you agree with that?
Well, yes.
Okay. Premise 7, attributing purpose to a being beyond space-time is an anthropomorphization, which you are applying a human characteristic to something that would not be human.
Yeah, here I totally agree, yes.
Okay. So the conclusion is, therefore, attributing purpose to God is unreasonable, leading to the conclusion that a non-anthropomorphic entity, as in not God, is a more reasonable explanation.
I see. So in your premises, there is a lot of assumptions about what is God. It's very like Christianic-like. So it's not God in general. It's a very specific God. Okay. If you argue only against a Christian God, then I would not argue against that. If you argue, but if you want to argue
This works
against,
under many kinds of gods.
yeah, but
there are many gods that are
anthropomorphism is
omnipowerful.
not required.
But I have read the Bible. I've read the Bhagavad Gita, and I've read my Quran. I've also read many different types of religious texts. This applies to lots and lots of different gods. And even so, you still have problems like regarding like, I don't know, like for example, when people bring up witchcraft or something like that, things that like clearly break the law of conservation of matter and energy, you would basically have to somehow falsify that, and I don't see that to be possible.
The problem with the miracles, so-called, is that we cannot repeat them in the lab, so we just remove them from the data set, and this makes sense. But we cannot definitely say that something was wrong. We just say, okay, statistics says that this is what repeats in the universe, so that's it. I am just saying that excluding miracles just.
So you're saying you can't falsify a miracle then, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Great. So actually, right behind you, right now, there is a leprechaun, and if you turn around and try to look at it, it disappears. And if you try to pull out a camera or a mirror of any kind to look behind you, it disappears. Also, if there's a friend or anybody who's in the room, it disappears. And if you try to put anything on the ground to try to like get it to like excite things on the ground with its footsteps, it also disappears. So let me ask you this. Do you think it's reasonable to assume that there is a leprechaun behind you?
No.
What? But you don't have any proof that a leprechaun isn't there?
Sorry, I'm trying to enable my camera. Okay, it doesn't work for some reason. Okay. Define leprechaun. Yeah, sorry, because we are talking about these low-level things. Like if we talk about God,
all right.
God is much more abstract than leprechaun.
It's
leprechaun
a supernatural
is
being in
unreasonable
Irish
because
folklore
it's very specific.
Of like this little man who wears green and has like a green top hat. They're usually very, very small,
unlikely.
very short, and they run around really, really fast, and they put pots of gold at the end of a rainbow.
And this is why it's unlikely. There is a lot of specifics.
No, it's literally
less
impossible.
And less likely.
It's impossible. Light doesn't work that way. Matter doesn't work that way. So you can logically infer that a leprechaun does not exist. In the same exact way
right now,
that you cannot infer miracles exist.
To the best knowledge we have right now, you're right.
Well,
But
on the
like
best
100
knowledge that we have right now, leprechauns don't exist. Do you think, based on the knowledge that we have now, that it is reasonable to assume that there is a leprechaun behind you like I described?
No, it's
exactly.
But you cannot.
It's not reasonable.
First of all, this is leprechaun. It's not God. Leprechaun
Really?
implies specifics
But
that
it's you that's
are not
it's you
attributed
that's
to a
making
God.
the proof argument that it is the lack of proof, therefore it must exist. But I just gave you an unfalsifiable claim, but you do not find that to be probable. So the very fact of something being an unfalsifiable claim
I
doesn't
haven't
mean
finished.
therefore it must exist or that it's probable that it exists. In fact, the exact opposite is the case.
I haven't finished. And secondly, if we talk about these things, then we cannot. Okay, I forgot my thought. There is a lot of models of how we perceive universe. It could be like Boltzmann brain or whatever. So, using science to prove that God doesn't exist makes no sense for me. Science always evolves. Science makes sense practically. So when you want to organize your own experiences, you want to find consistency in these experiences, then yes. But using our current knowledge that was very different 100 years ago or even 200 years ago, we believed in ether theory, we didn't know about quantum physics, we thought that universe is completely deterministic and so on. Like it was very, very like recently. You cannot use this kind of knowledge to beyond reasonable doubt reject something so sophisticated as God.
But I did. And
Okay.
you saying, "Oh, it's too complicated to understand," is not an argument.
I'm saying that you
Right?
use.
I presented a very strong argument, and secondly, why would you place an anthropomorphization upon God?
I agree. This is stupid. Nobody should do that. But if you,
Okay,
for
but
example,
everybody
read
does
ancient
that.
Greeks, no, if you read, for example, ancient Greeks, like 500 years BC, there was a phrase, I think in Elean school of philosophy or something. I don't remember exactly. God is spherical because sphere is ideal, or perfect. Like not everybody says that God is anthropomorphic.
Well, what about you?
I'm atheist.
You're an atheist. Okay.
But agnostic basically. I don't see any use in God, so it only brings confusion into mind, inconsistencies that you need to deal with all your life. So practically speaking, it's much more useful to be atheist. Like
Mm-hmm.
your brain has less mess inside.
Well, good talk. You got anything else
Okay.
for me?
We still haven't discussed the miracles through quantum effects, but if you want, we can finish here, of course.
Up to you.
I understand you're saying that it's impossible to have macro effects through quantum randomness, right?
I'm saying that wouldn't be the cause of miracles. That doesn't make any sense.
Why?
Because it doesn't
I don't get
affect
it.
things at a macro level like what you're thinking.
It does.
It would have to be like a sudden, and then even on top of that, assume it does happen at a micro scale that then affects the macro scale. Great. That's measurable. We have no indication that has ever happened ever in any substantive study whatsoever, any experiment over hundreds of years. We have no indication that it exists, let alone the leprechaun behind you.
If it exists, how exactly we can capture that in measurements?
Huh? You would be able to measure an energy that is coming from somewhere that isn't within the closed system.
No, you don't. My point is that it will not generate energy, sustainable energy, which will not disappear.
Well, we would know the energy is coming from something that doesn't make sense. It'd be like, what is this? It is moving it in such a way that is physically impossible.
There is always energy which doesn't make sense for us.
No.
This whole quantum form is like fluctuations of energy.
No.
you have like the right interpretation of quantum physics to explain where all these fluctuations
Are
come
you aware
from.
of the experiments done by Antoine Lavoisier?
This year.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
The father of was it the modern chemistry? Experiments that were done to where they basically enacted different chemical reactions within closed systems, and then found that the weight was the exact same from when they first
I
did the
know this
chemical
experiment.
reaction.
I know this experiment, but for some reason in Russia they said it was experiment of Lomonosov. Okay, um, so what? Again, I'm not saying that energy appears. What you just said, the experiment is about. I don't know the word in English, but it's. Let me translate something like heat, heat. Um, like you have hydrogen, right? Like hydrogen. So this is about heat gen. Does it exist or not? This is what this experiment was about. So basically, is heat contained as basically mass or not? And initially they had vials, they heated them and saw that it becomes more heavy because of oxidation, but they didn't know about that. And then another chemist came and showed that if you close vials, then mass doesn't change. So
Yep.
there is no this heat gen. It's just oxidation. That was the experiment. It is not related to quantum physics. I mean, to what I'm talking about, quantum physics at all.
Yeah, so like if there was something that affected at the quantum scale that then affected the macro scale, that would be measurable. You would
How?
get your miracle.
Okay, you have you have psi function, right? In like quantum mechanics, it collapses when you do a quantum measurement. When it collapses, it's this collapse is completely random for us. We don't know. We cannot understand any preferences in how it does that. So for us, in our calculations, it's completely random. But
What?
If it collapses like one way or another, it will be the same exact energy. So you don't need to produce energy to influence the quantum system to
Yeah, you
behave
do.
differently. No,
Yes,
you
you do.
don't. No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
Okay, how we resolve this?
I mean, it's just
Because I know
you're
that
wrong
I'm
here.
right. How we resolve it? Yeah, let's resolve this.
Provide the
how you
provide the antithetical research.
again, the psi function in quantum mechanics, it collapses randomly. You can Google that.
What
And
collapses randomly?
psi function, I guess in
The
English
what
they call it
function?
wave function. I guess in English they call it wave function, but it uses Greek letter psi.
Okay.
So this
So
function,
wave function collapse, also the reduction of the state vector, is fundamental concept that describes the transition of a wave function from a superposition of many states to a single observable state during measurement.
yes.
This process is seemingly random but biphased or biased by probabilities it encodes, which implies the random collapse of an original wave function. So what's your issue?
Yes. So my issue is
Does this prove me wrong?
whatever how it collapses, it won't require. So it can collapses into different states.
This doesn't break the law of conservation of mass and energy.
Exactly, it can collapse into different states.
But you're implying that there could be something that causes the miracle and then something like completely separate. It doesn't make sense.
I'm saying that if we say that somebody performs miracles, they can influence how this randomness works. Because no matter how psi function collapses, it won't require extra energy or reducing energy. It will be exact same energy. You don't break the law of conservation here.
I didn't. That went way over my head. Can you repeat that? That didn't make sense.
So when your wave function collapses, it selects one of the states. So just sorry, I'm not I don't want to like get to ad hominems or anything. I'm just asking to understand how exactly to formulate. Do you have education on quantum physics?
No.
Okay. So what do you know about Schrödinger cat? It's a very popular thing. So
Schrödinger's
I'm just
cat?
trying to find the basis. Yes.
I've heard about it many times. Why?
How you understand this experiment? What exactly it means? I'm just trying to understand the basis. What exactly I need to talk about?
It's basically like going to be your demonstration of like two separate particles that can become one thing once it's observed, right?
Well, basically, Schrödinger cat is a demonstration of macro scale miracle from quantum randomness, which doesn't break the conservation of energy and mass. So basically, there is some inherent randomness in our universe, which we cannot understand. We don't comprehend it right now with our current knowledge.
Well, it's not even that we don't comprehend it; it's that it is that way.
No, we don't.
It's not like a lack of inability to measure it. It's measurably random. Like the concept of quantum physics is probabilistic in notion.
We have different models of physics which can explain this randomness, but we cannot prove any of these models. We just don't know what exactly is going on. If for practical sake, we just say, okay, it's completely random, we don't know. We proved that a hidden parameter doesn't exist. Yes, so it's not like a particle has some internal like mass but not mass something else that makes this behavior. We proved that is not a correct model, but we haven't disproved a bunch of other models explaining this randomness. So you have randomness in string theory, like you have randomness even in
I don't know what you're banging up on. None of this tackles my syllogism. None of this tackles the situation.
I'm just explaining that you can perform miracles without breaking
nope,
conservation.
That would be energy that would apply within a macro scale, which would be observable.
This is exactly what I'm trying to explain, that it is not true. You can influence universe without introducing or reducing energy. You cannot. You can.
But you have to introduce energy in order to make things move.
This is correct only in classical mechanics. In quantum mechanics,
what that is also true in quantum mechanics.
No, it's a false
yes, it
statement.
Is.
For God's sake. Okay, sorry. I'm getting emotional. I need to calm down. Okay. Do you know about quantum entanglement? What do you think about? Can you open just right now on Wiki quantum entanglement and explain me how this happens?
Quantum entanglement is a bizarre, counterintuitive phenomenon that explains how two subatomic particles can be intimately linked with each other, even if separated by billions of light years of space.
Yeah, you measure one particle, and somehow another particle gets another state. It was in a superposition, and superposition collapsed, and it got a specific state. How that happens without applying a force to another particle?
I don't know.
This is a well-proven fact in physics.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Can I just ask you to accept some things I'm gonna say?
But if you think that quantum entanglement somehow breaks conservation laws, it doesn't.
Exactly. You can influence
so this isn't a gotcha.
A few light years away from you without applying force on it. So but you don't
No. Again, the conservation laws are work perfectly within entangled particles.
Exactly. That's what I am saying. I am saying
Okay,
you
they are
don't need to
governed by
break
that. That's
law.
literally what my syllogism is arguing.
No, your
Oh my
syllogism is
God,
arguing that you cannot influence on the universe without applying a force. I am
That's
demonstrating
correct.
you that you can influence universe without breaking
Yeah, so you
the
move
law.
one of them and then the other one moves. All right, great, amazing. That
But
all works within the
entanglement is a better
conservation
example.
laws.
Schrödinger cat is a better example. So you have randomness in decay of atoms, and this manifests into two very different scenarios on macro level. While like you don't need to apply any force or any energy to make a selection between these two scenarios. So you get two different scenarios without applying energy. This is just quantum randomness. If God
Yeah,
can
that
influence this,
again doesn't break the law of conservation of mass and energy.
exactly. That's my point. That's my point, that it doesn't break
So
the
that
law.
doesn't break my syllogism at all.
It breaks because
No.
God can influence universe through this randomness without
There is
breaking
no
the law.
indication of that. How
And
are
there
you
is
an
no indication
atheist?
otherwise. You do the statement that you can prove that God doesn't
How are
exist
you an
beyond reasonable
atheist?
doubt. Sorry?
How are you an atheist?
Well, I'm agnostic.
That would
And
be
I'm
under
showing
the
you
umbrella
why.
of atheism.
Yes, yes.
Why are you
I'm
assuming
just,
God exists here?
I'm assuming that you cannot prove that God doesn't exist.
Well,
I'm
I
just
did
saying that
beyond a reasonable doubt,
you haven't.
right?
You
So, I mean,
assume.
we can apply unreasonable doubt and play all of the unreasonable doubts as possible, but I already
No.
proved that it is unreasonable to operate under these assumptions.
Again, your
And bringing up
presumptions.
Schrodinger's cat and conservation and the fact that there exists quantum entanglement does not remove the laws of conservation of matter, and so it doesn't break my syllogism.
Okay, your syllogism is basically, as I understand, a part of your logic is that to influence our universe, God needs to apply force. And when they apply force, they basically break the law of conservation of energy and mass.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, yes, okay, you cannot break the law of conservation of energy and mass. Though this is arguable if we talk about God. But okay, I like this statement. Let's say yes, okay. The problem is you don't
Continue
need
talking.
to.
I gotta use the bathroom, but keep going. Sorry, give me a sec.
Okay.
I can't hear you
with
when you're
headphones.
talking, by the way. So yeah, they're wireless.
Okay, so what I'm saying is you don't need to apply force. You can influence universe through other means. You can influence how randomness work. And unfortunately, our science is not developed enough yet to actually detect that. So if you want to say that manipulating randomness on quantum scale won't affect macro scale, then you have Schrödinger cat as a thought experiment to demonstrate otherwise. So again, the problem is in your like proof of God non-existence, you require to manipulate universe only through applying force. You are not required to do that. You can manipulate the universe through other means. That's the problem. I guess I will talk about something else until. Quantum physics is very counterintuitive. There is these things like quantum eraser, for example. It's completely insane. If somebody's
Yep,
curious,
none of that breaks
quickly.
any of the problems there with the syllogism. Not a single premise in the syllogism is broken by bringing up these things.
Again, premise 4. If God enacts miracles, he would be able to perform work independently from of the universe.
Correct.
I'm saying he doesn't need to perform work to enact miracles.
So How is he enacting a miracle if there's no work implied? Give me an example of a miracle where no work is implied.
Schrödinger cat. You have two different scenarios.
That's not a miracle.
Okay.
Perfectly explained phenomena that works within the law of conservation of mass.
Yes, but you, let's say that this randomness in Schrödinger cat was decided by God, and God decided that the cat must die. This kind of, if God can manipulate our universe through these means, I assume they can perform other.
You understand that
miracles as well.
Schrodinger's cat isn't arguing the concept of work, right? It's the fact that it's unknown whether or not that the cat is alive or dead.
It's worse. First of all, again, you kind of reusing my stance. I'm saying that you don't need work. So this is my stance. But in Schrödinger cat, there is another problem also, that you have randomness, which defines macroscopic state. Inherent randomness. You don't need to apply any work, energy, whatever.
I fail to find this
collapse
very
into different
convincing that
states.
that's the form of what a miracle is, because it's completely explainable within natural mechanics. So I'm lost as to how that's a miracle. And I don't think that anybody would call that a miracle. Why not look at something like, I don't know, Jesus' resurrection? Isn't that a miracle?
I doubt that happened. It again, it's Christian God. Christian God is boring. It's very unlikely. It is probable.
Great. So do you think that
it's not
there's like a
existent beyond
being that
reasonable doubt.
created
Yeah.
the universe?
This we don't know. This
I'm
I
asking,
doubt
do
you
you
can
think?
prove. I don't think that.
Do you think that it is either possible or impossible?
I think it's possible. I think
Okay,
you can
so
have
if
some
it is
recursive
possible,
entity.
right,
Uh-huh.
it's possible that God created the universe with intention.
You know, when we say about God and intention, word intention doesn't make sense, because if
That's
something,
correct. It doesn't.
yeah,
I could
because
easily invoke
intention is
a
human word.
non-anthropomorphic entity, as in it just makes universe, but it doesn't really care whether or not we exist.
Yeah, I doubt it thinks if it exists at the same categories as a human. So intention most likely was not used in this process. Yes. But God still might exist. It might even manipulate our universe right now, and might even decide who lives and who dies through manipulation of this randomness. Might do some crazy stuff if you like manipulate this randomness. You manipulated randomness like 1 year ago somewhere. It affected the whole life path of some person, and he suddenly saved a child from like drowning in a river because of because they decided to move to another town or whatnot. Like, you know, like you cannot prove otherwise, unfortunately. Beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't break my syllogism. We're going in circles here. Do you have anything else?
Okay, I will just restate that again. Your requirement of work for God to enact miracles is your personal assumption. God, if God exists, it doesn't require to perform work to enact miracles. But if you
Then
go
that
from
would
those
mean
premises,
that no miracle ever happened.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Again,
it does, because that's what work is. You're displacing something. Like, you have to understand,
cannot-
like, even at the level of a single photon going from one location to another is work. Right?
Yes, because
any
again,
amount of any matter that ever shows up in the universe that would not normally be there would be a level of work beyond space-time that came into existence within space-time. Right?
all you say is true if you think in terms of classical mechanics. But in quantum mechanics, you live in superposition of this.
None of
different
those
states.
things change. even under quantum mechanics, even operating under all of your unintuitive thoughts on this, such as Schrodinger's cat and the what was the other one, the quantum entanglement, you still have the same issue.
Again, let me complete.
I'll let you have the last word, but at this point we're going in circles and I killed the entire audience.
Okay then. Have a nice evening.
It's good talk.
Okay, bye. Good talk.
Ah, damn, bro. All right, let's see here.